Have you ever stopped to ask yourself why so many women, after years, even decades of marriage, seem to carry a growing frustration toward their husbands? What begins as a loving partnership filled with dreams and shared laughter can sometimes quietly transform into a connection strained by silence, irritation, or even emotional distance. But why? What is happening beneath the surface of so many long-term relationships? This isn't just about everyday arguments or occasional misunderstandings. It's something deeper, a slow burning shift that takes place over time, so subtly that most couples don't even notice it happening until they wake up one day and realize the love feels different. The connection has faded, and in its place, a quiet exhaustion, an emotional gap that feels too wide to cross. In this video, we'll go far beyond surface-level explanations. We're going to uncover the invisible emotional patterns that often lead to resentment in long-term marriages. From decades of unrecognized emotional labor to the painful realization that a husband has stopped seeing his wife as a partner and started treating her like background noise, these truths are raw, but they are also real. Let's start with one of the most overlooked truths in marriage. 1. The weight of unseen emotional labor. Many women spend their entire adult lives silently managing the emotional health of their marriage. They organize, remember, nurture, plan, support, smooth over conflicts, and keep the entire emotional structure intact. Birthdays are remembered. Appointments are scheduled. Conflicts are quietly de-escalated. It's a constant, invisible effort, and it's exhausting. The term for this is emotional labor, and while it's rarely discussed, it shapes the foundation of many long-term marriages. The problem? This labor often goes unrecognized, and when effort is invisible, appreciation is non-existent. Imagine Carol, a retired schoolteacher now in her 70s. For over 40 years, she was the emotional backbone of her household, juggling a career, raising children, maintaining friendships, and making sure her husband's life ran without a hitch. But in all those decades, he never once asked her how she was managing it all. Not once did he truly thank her for being the reason their world stayed balanced. Now, in the quiet of retirement, she doesn't feel fulfilled. She feels used, tired, alone. This emotional weariness doesn't appear overnight, it accumulates slowly. It comes from decades of giving without receiving, of being there for everyone while no one checks in on her. And eventually, love begins to erode, not because she stopped caring, but because she reached a limit no one even knew she had. 2. Feeling like a roommate instead of a wife. Over time, many women find that their marriages begin to resemble a business arrangement rather than a romantic bond. The connection that once felt magnetic slowly gives way to routine, to silence, to coexistence. They may still share a home, eat meals side by side, and sleep in the same bed, but emotionally, they're worlds apart. Take Linda, a former nurse. In her younger years, she and her husband were inseparable. They walked together, shared dreams, laughed deep into the night. But slowly, the laughter faded. The conversation shortened. The affection disappeared. Now, they live like roommates, sharing space but not intimacy. This is where the emotional pain cuts deep. Because being physically near someone and feeling emotionally invisible is one of the loneliest experiences a person can have. And the heartbreaking part? Most women try to fix it. They reach out. They ask for more closeness, more connection, more care. But when their pleas are met with indifference, or worse, annoyance, they eventually stop asking. And when a woman stops trying to reconnect, it often means she's emotionally checking out. 3. The silent damage of unresolved conflicts. Not all wounds in marriage come from big fights. In fact, some of the deepest resentments come from small, consistent dismissals that build up over time. A forgotten anniversary, a promise broken, a moment when she needed support and got silence instead. Patricia, a 74-year-old retired accountant, had one of those marriages that looked stable from the outside, but inside she was quietly unraveling. Every time her feelings were minimized, every time she was told she was too sensitive or overreacting, she filed it away. Not out of pettiness, but because it hurt. And over 40 years, that pain had no place to go. It simply sat there, growing heavier. Eventually, she stopped bringing things up. Not because they didn't matter, but because she knew they wouldn't be heard. And nothing creates emotional distance faster than the feeling that your pain is invisible to the one person who should care the most. Many husbands misinterpret this silence. They think, she's not complaining, so things must be fine. But silence is often a sign that the damage has already been done, that she's given up on being heard. Fourth, a shift in desires that goes ignored. As women age, their sense of self evolves. They begin to seek meaning beyond roles they've played for decades. Once the children are grown and the home no longer needs constant care, many women ask themselves, what now? Who am I beyond being a wife or a mother? Helen, a retired librarian, felt this deeply. After years of dedicating herself to her family, she was ready for a new chapter, one filled with travel, creativity, and rediscovering her own voice. But her husband had no interest in growing with her. He was content with the TV, the routine, the comfort of sameness. And every time she suggested something new, he shut it down. That disinterest didn't just disappoint her, it broke her heart. Because what she needed wasn't just new hobbies. She needed to feel alive again. And when her partner refused to join her on that journey, she started to feel like she had outgrown the very marriage she once cherished. 5. The disappearance of affection. Physical and emotional intimacy are vital in long-term relationships. But somewhere along the way, many husbands stop reaching for their wives, emotionally, physically, or both. The compliments stop. The touch becomes rare. The look that once said, "You are everything to me," is replaced by indifference. This loss may seem small at first, but over time it chips away at a woman's self-worth. She begins to wonder, am I still lovable? Am I still seen? The absence of affection doesn't just hurt, it creates emotional starvation. And when that need goes unmet year after year, the woman who once felt cherished now feels abandoned. If any of this resonates with you, know this: you are not alone. These stories, these emotions, these struggles, millions of women live them, often in silence. But bringing these truths to light is the first step toward healing, toward understanding, toward change, and perhaps, just perhaps, toward a deeper love. One that doesn't just survive the years, but grows wiser, stronger, and more tender with time. But perhaps one of the most painful shifts in a long-term marriage comes when a woman no longer feels wanted, no longer feels seen, no longer feels like the person she once was in the eyes of the man she chose to grow old with. In the beginning, love often speaks through small gestures, soft touches, shared laughter, and spontaneous kisses. There's a tenderness in the way hands reach for each other in crowded rooms, a warmth in stolen glances across the dinner table. But over time, for many women, those gestures begin to fade. And when they do, something inside begins to ache. Take Sharon, a 71-year-old retired secretary. She remembers when her husband used to place his hand gently on the small of her back when they walked, when he'd greet her with a kiss for no reason, when he'd compliment the way she looked, even in her most ordinary moments. But now they barely touch. Conversations revolve around chores and bills. They sit beside each other, yet feel oceans apart. One night, she finally said it. I miss how things used to be. And his answer? We're too old for that now. That simple sentence pierced her like a knife, not because of what he said, but because it revealed the truth. He didn't think love still needed to be nurtured. What many men fail to realize is that affection isn't optional, it's vital. It's not a youthful phase that fades with time, but a human need that remains, even as we age. Women don't stop wanting to feel desired just because the years have passed. They still crave tenderness, connection, warmth. And when that need is dismissed, when the little gestures vanish, a woman doesn't just feel lonely. She feels invisible. And nothing wounds the soul more deeply than feeling unseen by the person who once promised to love you most. This goes beyond physical intimacy. Many women understand that passion evolves over time. They're not angry about the changes in their bodies or the natural shifts that come with aging. What they mourn is the loss of emotional intimacy, the effort to stay close, to stay present, to still choose each other day after day. When affection turns into routine, when kisses disappear, when compliments stop, many women try. Oh, they try. They speak up. They ask for more. They drop hints hoping he'll notice. But if they are ignored, brushed off, or laughed at, eventually they stop asking. And when a woman stops asking, it's not because she stopped wanting. It's because she's accepted that she won't receive. 6. Taken for granted. One of the most corrosive feelings in any relationship is the sense of being taken for granted. Many women spend decades giving their best, loving, cooking, supporting, nurturing, only to one day feel that their efforts have become invisible. What was once a loving gesture slowly becomes an expectation, and when gratitude disappears, so does joy. Nancy, a 72-year-old retired school principal, lived this story. She never complained. She made his favorite meals, kept the house running, made life feel stable and warm. But one day, after hours preparing dinner, she sat down, looked at her husband, and quietly asked, "Do you even notice all that I do for you?" His answer was a shrug. No thank you, no recognition, just silence. That was the moment something in her changed. It wasn't about the dinner. It was about years of invisible labor. It was about feeling like her efforts had become so expected, so automatic, that they no longer held value in his eyes. And here's the truth. Women don't need constant praise, but they do need to feel seen, a simple thank you, a kind word, a small gesture of acknowledgement. These are the things that keep a heart open. Without them, love becomes a burden. And slowly, a woman stops giving. Not because she doesn't care, but because she has nothing left to offer. 7. Growing apart. Perhaps the most heartbreaking realization of all is this. Sometimes, love doesn't end in fire. It ends in silence, in distance, in the quiet discovery that the person beside you no longer feels like home. This isn't about a single moment. It's about a slow drifting apart. 1,000 small missed chances to connect. A growing silence between two people who once couldn't get enough of each other's voices. Margaret, a 74-year-old former social worker, remembered the early days of her marriage, when she and her husband would stay up late, sharing dreams, fears, and laughter. But now, he barely responded when she spoke. The only conversations they shared were about groceries or the evening news. He didn't ask questions anymore. He didn't seem curious about her thoughts or feelings, and slowly she stopped sharing. That's how emotional distance begins, not with arguments, but with silence, not with anger, but with indifference. Many women in long-term marriages reach a point where they look at their husbands and ask themselves, who is this person beside me? And worse, who have I become because of this disconnect? They want to talk about growth, purpose, change, They want to explore new hobbies, travel, evolve. But if their partner refuses to grow alongside them, if he stays stuck in routine, if he avoids deep conversations, if he dismisses their attempts to connect, then the marriage stops feeling like a partnership and starts to feel like a cage. And the hardest part? Many men don't even realize it's happening. They assume that if there's no fighting, things are fine, but women know better. Silence isn't peace. It's surrender. So here we are. After thousands of small disappointments, after years of emotional silence, after a lifetime of putting others first, many women find themselves filled not with hatred, but with quiet grief. Grief for the connection they lost, for the version of themselves they buried, for the love that slowly faded without either of them noticing. But here's what matters most: it's not too late. Resentment is not the end of love, it is a signal, a call for change, a call to wake up and speak honestly, to say the things that were left unsaid, to ask for more, to demand to be seen, because every woman deserves to feel cherished, to feel respected, to feel that her efforts, her love, her very presence matter. If any part of this spoke to you, please don't stay silent. You are not alone in this journey. Your voice, your story, your pain, they deserve space. They deserve to be acknowledged. And most importantly, you deserve to feel loved.